It's kind of funny. We live in this incredible world of GPS, satellites, and supercomputers, but when a pilot talks about the speed of a jetliner or a captain about their container ship, they use terms that sound like they're straight out of a pirate movie. Ever stop and wonder why that is?
I mean, really think about it. Why is a billion-dollar aircraft flying at 35,000 feet still measuring its speed in knots? It feels like a glitch in the matrix, right? Well, it turns out there's a surprisingly logical and frankly fascinating reason that connects a simple piece of rope to our most advanced navigation systems today. So let's dive in.
Okay, so first we have to travel back in time. Just picture this. You're on a ship hundreds of miles from the nearest shore. You look around and all you see in every single direction is water. How on earth do you know how fast you're going?
And that was the fundamental problem. On land, it's easy, right? You can time how long it takes to walk past a big tree or a distinctive rock. But out on the featureless, empty sea, you're just moving. You have absolutely no fixed reference points. So how in the world do you measure your progress?
Well, one of the earliest and, let's be honest, pretty rough methods was called the Dutchman's log. It was simple. You just toss a piece of wood off the front of the ship, the bow, and then you time how long it took for the back of your ship to pass it. Now, as you can probably guess, it wasn't very accurate, especially when timing it meant, chanting a specific phrase over and over, or maybe even counting your own heartbeats. Not exactly scientific.
But hey, sailors have always been an inventive bunch. They needed something better, and what they came up with was just ingenious in its simplicity. It's the device that literally gave us the word knot. Okay, so check this out. This thing was called a chip log. Sailors would toss this weighted wooden panel, it was shaped kind of like a slice of pizza, off the back of the ship. It was designed to dig into the water and act like a little sea anchor, staying more or less in one place. As the ship sailed forward, a rope tied to this log would unspool. And here's the really clever part. That rope had knots tied in it at very specific, evenly spaced intervals. While the rope was paying out, another sailor would flip over a sandglass timer, usually set for about 28 or 30 seconds. And boom, there it is. The number of physical knots that passed through this sailor's hands in that amount of time was the ship's speed in knots. And where do they write all this down? In the ship's logbook. The name comes directly from that wooden log they were throwing overboard. Pretty cool, right?
So, a knot is a unit of speed. Specifically, it's 1 nautical mile per hour. And that, of course, brings up the next big question. What in the world is a nautical mile? And why don't we just use a regular, old-fashioned mile?
And this is where the whole system becomes truly elegant. You see, a nautical mile isn't just some arbitrary distance, like a Roman 1,000 paces. It's directly tied to the geometry of our planet. A nautical mile is defined as 1 single minute of latitude.
I mean, think about how genius this was. The Earth is a sphere divided into 360 degrees of latitude. Each of those degrees is then split into 60 smaller parts called minutes. By making 1 nautical mile equal to 1 minute of latitude, a sailor could look at their chart, measure a distance against the latitude scale on the side, and bam, instantly know that distance in nautical miles. It perfectly marries the map to the real world and made navigation calculations so much simpler.
But there was a problem. A really big one, actually. As our measurement tools got more and more precise over the centuries, sailors and mapmakers started to realize something pretty crucial about our planet. The thing is, Earth isn't a perfect sphere. It's what's technically called an oblate spheroid, which is just a fancy way of saying it's a bit squished. It bulges out a little at the equator and is slightly flatter at the poles. And because of that squashed shape, the actual physical distance of 1 minute of latitude isn't the same everywhere. As you can see, near the equator, 1 minute of latitude is about 1,843 meters. But if you go up near the poles, it stretches out to over 1,861 meters. That's a huge problem. You can't have a standard unit of measurement that changes depending on where you are on the globe.
So this inconsistency, it had to be fixed. In 1929, everybody got together at the first International Extraordinary Hydrographic Conference, and they standardized it. The International Nautical Mile was officially defined as 1 fixed length, exactly 1,852 meters. It was kind of a compromise, an average value, and it finally created a single, reliable unit that everyone in global commerce and navigation could agree on.
Now, this brings us all the way to today. You'd think with everything else going metric, we'd have ditched these old units by now, and international organizations like the ICAO you see here are all for the metric system. But they make this really crucial exception for knots and nautical miles.
And why? Well, as they say right here, it's all about safety and practicality. Forcing a sudden global change could cause all sorts of confusion and potentially dangerous problems.
So, that brings us to the final big question. In our modern, high-tech, largely metric world, why do these old-school units still rule the sky and the sea?
Well, it really boils down to a few key things. First, as we've seen, it's just plain practical. It's still the most efficient system for navigating on a sphere using latitude and longitude. Then there's legacy, and a whole lot of industrial inertia, especially from the United States. The US was a huge player in early aviation and shipping, and its standards just stuck. Plus, being one of only 3 countries not fully on the metric system, its resistance is a major roadblock. And finally, you have to consider the absolutely staggering cost. Switching everything over globally would cost billions upon billions in new instruments, updated charts, and massive retraining efforts.
And if you think getting units mixed up is a minor issue, let me tell you, the stakes are astronomically high. Just look at what happened with NASA's Mars Climate Orbiter in 1999. A mission worth almost $330 million was completely lost. It just burned up in the Martian atmosphere because one engineering team used English units while the other used metric. That's a catastrophic and very expensive lesson in why standardization matters. Now you might be thinking, but wait, we have GPS now. Doesn't that change everything? And you're right, we do. But what does a GPS unit tell you? It tells you your exact position in latitude and longitude. So believe it or not, our most modern technology actually reinforces the usefulness of a system built around those exact coordinates. The nautical mile is still the most direct and efficient unit to use. And this right here, this just brings it all home. This simple, beautiful relationship is the reason the system has lasted for centuries. 1 knot is 1 nautical mile per hour, which means you travel about 1 minute of latitude in 1 hour. It's an incredibly simple and practical rule of thumb that every navigator, on the sea or in the air, can rely on. So even as we race towards a future filled with AI and quantum computing, the knot and the nautical mile are still here, a quiet testament to an ingenious solution that came from a simple rope, a piece of wood, and the very shape of our planet. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other old systems are still humming along in the background of our modern world, simply because they're still the best tool for the job?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.